Welcome to the Misl Net Intel Podcast, your dedicated source for deep dives into the latest research from leading defense think tanks. Today, we're undertaking a critical meta-analysis, not just on a single report, but on a collection of recent insights from some of the most influential organizations focused on international security. Our focus today is the recent crisis between India and Pakistan in May 2025, a conflict that has unveiled new dynamics and raised profound questions about regional stability and nuclear deterrence. We'll be dissecting what these expert bodies have identified as key drivers, critical observations, and essential lessons. And to bring you this comprehensive picture, we've drawn extensively from recent publications. Our analysis synthesizes findings from the Brookings Institution, a highly respected public policy organization, the International Center for Counter-Terrorism, or ICCT, based in The Hague, the International Institute for Strategic Studies, or IISS, a world-renowned authority on military and political conflict, the Belfer Center for Science and International Affairs at Harvard University, a prominent voice in security studies, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CSIS, a bipartisan think tank focusing on global issues, and a briefing from the UK Parliament's Commons Library, which offers valuable historical context and an overview of the international response. All the links to original sources can be found on our Substack at mislnet.com. So let's dive into the intel, going through each of these vital contributions and extracting their core insights. First, from the Brookings Institution's analysis on lessons for the next India-Pakistan war, we gain crucial foresight into how future conflicts might unfold. Brookings highlights four critical new dynamics. Firstly, a shift in the global debate on attribution, meaning there's a growing tendency to swiftly assign blame after incidents, which could lead to more rapid and less restrained reactions. This has significant implications for how states respond to provocations, potentially shortening the decision-making cycle and increasing the risk of preemptive strikes. Secondly, concerning new precedents in military target selection. India's recent strikes on what are perceived as symbolic sites rather than purely military targets might inadvertently compel them to target deeper into Pakistan in future crises. Simultaneously, Pakistan remains acutely anxious about India's willingness to challenge its air defenses and penetrate its airspace, setting a dangerous new threshold for escalation. Thirdly, Brookings points to the increasing centrality of information operations. Pakistan, in particular, has demonstrated significant efforts to shape the information environment during conflicts, leveraging media and public narratives both domestically and internationally. This makes perception management a vital part of wartime planning and a new battleground for influence. Lastly, they emphasize the widespread use of drones and loitering munitions, which introduces new complexities in interpreting escalation levels and assessing the true scope of military action. These unmanned systems can offer deniability or precision, but their proliferation also means a more ambiguous and potentially faster-paced conflict environment. Ultimately, Brookings suggests that both sides will undoubtedly integrate these lessons into their future military strategies and procurements, with Pakistan likely deepening its integration with China and Turkey for UAVs, while India needs to shore up its missile and munition reserves and improve coordination across multiple fronts to enhance its readiness. Next, from the International Center for Counter-Terrorism, ICCT, their piece on Operation Sindoor, a turning point for India in addressing terrorism in Kashmir, offers a more granular look at India's specific responses. The ICCT details how the horrific terrorist attack in Pahalgam on Hindu tourists prompted a severe Indian reaction, including military operations such as airstrikes across the border against sites allegedly used by terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and Hizbul Mujahideen. Crucially, it also triggered the deeply escalatory step of India suspending the Indus Water Treaty, a vital agreement distributing water between the two nations. This treaty suspension was perceived by Pakistan as an act of war, significantly heightening tensions and raising fears of broader resource conflict. The ICCT also brings to light concerning human rights issues in the region, noting the widespread misuse of anti-terrorism laws and severe restrictions on freedoms of speech, association, and religion in both Indian and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. These measures, the ICCT argues, have marginalized minorities and stifled political dissent, often without accountability. For recommendations, the ICCT urges India to thoroughly investigate and prosecute those involved in the Pahalgam attacks through fair trials by independent courts and to enhance its intelligence coordination and detection capabilities without resorting to overly broad surveillance that violates human rights. For Pakistan, the clear recommendation is to ensure it does not support terrorist groups and fully cooperate in bringing those responsible for the Kashmir attack to justice. They emphasize that a lasting solution requires addressing these underlying grievances, persistent human rights violations, and governance deficits in both parts of Kashmir, in addition to security-related measures. Moving on, the International Institute for Strategic Studies, IISS, in their analysis titled India-Pakistan Drone and Missile Conflict, Differing and Disputed Narratives, they zero in on the crucial element of information warfare and conflicting accounts. The IISS points out that while a US-brokered ceasefire on May 10 held, the post-conflict period was immediately marked by significant misinformation and disinformation campaigns from both sides' media and governments. India's strategic narrative centered on a new counter-terrorism doctrine, stressing decisive military action and a commitment to escalation dominance, suggesting it had achieved its objectives. In stark contrast, Pakistan claimed it successfully defended its sovereignty, had not compromised its territory, and had effectively targeted installations beyond Indian-controlled Kashmir. Crucially, Pakistan also argued that the conflict succeeded in internationalizing the Kashmir dispute, shifting it from a bilateral issue to one requiring broader global attention. The IISS suggests that given these deeply entrenched and diverging narratives, the regeneration of private and informal Track 1.5 dialogues between senior Indian and Pakistani officials and influential experts held in third-party countries offer the best immediate prospect for a return to regional stability. Then, the Belfer Center for Science and International Affairs provides a sobering strategic overview in Escalation Gone Meta, Strategic Lessons from the 2025 India-Pakistan Crisis. This piece emphasizes the stark reality of the fragility of nuclear deterrence in this volatile region and the inadequacy of existing escalation control mechanisms. Despite both countries possessing nuclear arsenals, the conflict escalated with alarming speed across multiple domains, including airstrikes, missile exchanges, drone warfare, and cyber operations. The Belfer Center highlights the immense risks of miscalculation in a compressed geography, where high alert postures and the logic of full-spectrum deterrence leave virtually no escalatory buffer. They specifically point to the May 7th aerial engagement, which marked the first-ever jet-era dogfight between two nuclear-armed states, resulting in the reported downing of 5 Indian aircraft. This incident, they argue, illustrates just how quickly escalation can spiral in a nuclearized environment where the margin for error is vanishingly small. The 2025 crisis, they conclude, serves as a stark reminder that nuclear deterrence, while a powerful restraint, does not guarantee strategic stability, and the introduction of new warfare tools like drones and precision missiles significantly multiplies the risk of miscalculation. The concept of a limited nuclear war between these two nations is, in their view, a dangerous illusion. Next, from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, their analysis, What Led to the Recent Crisis Between India and Pakistan, offers further detailed insights into the crisis's origins and tactical shifts. CSIS corroborates the unprecedented first-time use of drones in aerial battles between India and Pakistan, marking a new era of technological conflict where both sides accused each other of targeting military installations. This signals how drone warfare will influence future conflicts as both nations continue to enhance their conventional and nuclear capabilities. They observed significantly higher levels of retaliation from both sides compared to previous crises, signaling a reduced risk tolerance for conflict and a greater willingness to escalate. India's evolving posture in addressing terrorist attacks was particularly evident. The 2025 strikes targeted 9 alleged camps, a notable increase from the single GM camp hit during the 2019 Balakot crisis. This signifies a clear shift towards more high-intensity military responses. CSIS also points out the dangerous nuclear rhetoric during the conflict, particularly discussions around critical infrastructure and potential nuclear responses, further fueled by India's consideration of the Indus Waters Treaty suspension during peak summer. Their recommendations include the urgent need for heightened international attention to South Asia, even during peacetime, and the paramount importance of establishing robust off-ramps for de-escalation. They specifically propose a standing communication body for Track 1 and 2 diplomacy to strengthen confidence-building measures, and a dedicated working group with army chiefs and national security advisors from both countries to ensure a strong, reliable line of contact and discuss issues like the Indus Waters Treaty and the Shimla Agreement. Finally, the UK Parliament's Commons Library briefing titled India and Pakistan, Recent Tensions, grounds our understanding in the historical context of the Kashmir dispute, which stems from the 1947 partition of India after British colonial rule. It reminds us that Kashmir, a Muslim-majority region, remains divided by a 450-mile line of control, with both countries claiming the entire territory. The briefing confirms the recent military confrontation was indeed sparked by the tragic killing of 26 people in Pahalgam on April 22nd, leading to a series of strikes and counterstrikes and the eventual May 10th ceasefire. India's initial reaction included closing its border, stopping bilateral trade, and threatening to suspend the Indus Waters Treaty, to which Pakistan responded in kind with threats to suspend all bilateral treaties. The briefing highlights that the international community, including the UK and the US, swiftly called for restraint and dialogue and were reportedly instrumental in brokering the ceasefire. However, it soberly acknowledges that the deep-seated underlying issues, such as India's accusations of Pakistan-supported terrorism and Pakistan's concerns over India's actions in Indian-administered Kashmir, remain unresolved. Analysts, it notes, remain deeply concerned about the rapid escalation given both nations' nuclear capabilities, fearing a conflict far more intense than previous ones. So bringing all these threads together, a clearer yet more complex picture emerges from this meta-analysis. The 2025 India-Pakistan crisis wasn't merely another flare-up. It was a watershed moment, characterized by several intersecting and deeply concerning trends. Firstly, the technological evolution of conflict is undeniable. The pervasive use of drones and precision missiles, as highlighted by CSIS and Brookings, fundamentally alters the calculus of escalation. These tools offer perceived advantages in precision and reduced risk to human life, but they also lower the psychological and political threshold for launching strikes, creating a more ambiguous and potentially faster-paced conflict environment where de-escalation becomes significantly harder. Secondly, the fragility of nuclear deterrence stands out starkly. While nuclear arsenals are theoretically meant to deter large-scale conflict, the Belfer Center's analysis demonstrates how limited, conventional engagements can rapidly spiral, bringing both sides dangerously close to the nuclear precipice. The casual nature of nuclear rhetoric, even implicitly during moments of high tension, as observed by CSIS, is a profound and unsettling threat to strategic stability, increasing the risk of miscalculation. Thirdly, the weaponization of information and conflicting narratives is a central challenge. The IISS effectively illustrates how deeply entrenched and mutually exclusive the narratives are, making diplomatic breakthroughs incredibly difficult. Misinformation campaigns can further muddy the waters, creating an environment ripe for miscalculation and hindering efforts to establish common ground for de-escalation. This constant battle for narrative control adds another layer of complexity to crisis management. Fourthly, the lack of robust de-escalation mechanisms remains a glaring vulnerability. Despite international calls for restraint, the speed at which this crisis escalated and the nature of India's evolving, more assertive posture underscores the urgent need for direct, reliable communication channels and confidence-building measures. Informal Track 1.5 dialogues, as suggested by the IISS, might be the most viable path forward for now, given the official diplomatic impasse and the deep mistrust that exists. Finally, the crisis reaffirms that lasting stability depends on addressing underlying grievances. The ICCT's points on human rights and governance in Kashmir and the historical context provided by Parliament.uk remind us that security measures and tactical responses alone are insufficient. Without a serious and sustained effort to tackle these foundational political and social issues, the region will remain perpetually prone to cycles of violence and instability, making any peace a fragile and temporary state. In essence, the 2025 India-Pakistan crisis has provided a stark warning. It showcased a dangerous convergence of new military technologies, a dangerously low threshold for retaliation, aggressive information warfare, and the ever-present terrifying shadow of nuclear weapons. These expert analyses collectively underscore that future stability in South Asia is precarious and hinges on a complex array of factors. Rethinking military doctrines, establishing reliable communication channels, and most importantly, addressing the deep-seated political and social issues that fuel radicalization and cross-border tensions. Without these concerted efforts, the region remains on a knife edge. So that's it for today. We'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Head over to our Substack and become part of our Intel community to share your thoughts. Let us know if you would like more deep dives like this, where we summarize and assess the latest research published by leading defense think tanks. And finally, for our listeners who are looking to elevate their own expertise and develop practical skills, Misl Net offers a range of specialized training packages led by experts. You can explore courses in firearms proficiency, hostile environment awareness training, close protection, CQB, and much more. If you are interested in discovering how you can advance your career or knowledge in these areas, simply visit mislnet.com/courses and fill out our contact form letting us know what you're looking for, and we will source it. That's mislnet.com/courses. Thank you for tuning in to the Misl Net Intel Podcast. Join us next time for more essential insights that help you stay ahead of the curve. Stay informed. Stay ahead.